Welcome back. Today marks a solemn day in Canadian history. 2 years ago today, a man disguised as an RCMP officer murdered 22 people during a 13-hour rampage in Nova Scotia. Just a few hours away from the massacre, a retired veteran investigative journalist, Paul Palango. He recently released his book, 22 Murders, chronicling Canada's worst mass shooting. He joins me live now in Nova Scotia. Good morning to you, Paul.
Good morning, Melanie.
I remember this day well in the newsroom, and it was very much trying to piece together what happened because it seemed like there was just mass confusion. What was happening for you in Nova Scotia? Can you take us back to that day, what it was like for you?
Well, I remember getting up that morning and my wife saying that she got a call from her aunt in Guelph, Ontario, saying there's something going on or your door is locked. And this sort of unfolded that way, that we had no idea what was going on. I went out on the road and I was sort of afraid on my own road. And I was a couple of hours away because the RCMP had put out a tweet saying that a man dressed as a policeman in a police car was on the loose in Nova Scotia, somewhere in Nova Scotia. We don't know where. And nobody really knew the details of this. And they slowly unfolded to find that he had killed 13 people on this day 2 years ago in Portapic, then another 9 the next day after he had had a bit of a nap. I mean, it's just an unbelievable story.
You came out of retirement to write this book and to chronicle, and I'm holding the book with me right now, and there was a lot. You know, there it is right there. Why did you decide to come out of retirement and to chronicle everything that you saw, that you heard, that you've learned?
Well, I've written 3 books on the RCMP previously. And I sort of understood the way the force works. And in my last book in 2008, one of the things I looked at were a few what I perceived to be cover-ups. And I could see that this was following the same pattern. And I sort of suspected and was told by my sources that the RCMP early on was destroying evidence and altering evidence. And then I could see the media, the mainstream media, falling away from the story and not covering the story. One of the reasons, began with Prime Minister Trudeau, for example, who on the second day said the media should not name this person and, make his infamy memorable. And the media took him at his word and basically did not report the killer's name, the victim's name. The RCMP went into a shell and basically blocked out the mainstream media. So I thought somebody had to do a story to put on the record what was going on, because I didn't have much faith in any public inquiry getting to the bottom of all the things that were going on.
You sourced it in 2014, shooter in Moncton, where 3 Mounties were killed, and there was supposed to be some sort of reform there when it came to the RCMP and protocol put into place. Did you see that?
No, that's what happened. I mean, there's just recently a government agency report citing the RCMP for 18 different labor code violations. And many of them go back not only to Moncton, but to previous RCMP shootings in 2006 and 2007, or 2005, 2006 in Mayerthorpe, where 4 Mounties lost their lives, and Spiritwood, Saskatchewan, where 2 lost their lives. And there were recommendations that the RCMP improve various things and do certain things. For example, that they they provide all their regular constables with night vision goggles. That never happened. That was 15 years ago. They had 15 years to implement that. They didn't do it. So when the police arrived at Portapic that Saturday night, a rural community, there was no lighting. They were in the woods. No ability to find people who were supposedly hiding or weren't supposedly hiding in the woods. It was just a debacle and a cascading series of failures. The first part of the book is called An Epic Failure in Policing. I mean, that's what it's about.
Paul, for you and living in Nova Scotia community and, hearing the stories, being within the community, what has been the reception to this book?
It's unbelievable. I've had nothing but positive comments, especially on the approach I took, which it reads a bit like a fiction, but it's all fact. And I tried to do something very un-Canadian, make a nonfiction story really interesting and compelling. And I think I achieved that. I mean, Random House called me. The book came out on last Tuesday, and Random House called me on Wednesday and said it's selling so fast that they've reprinted it already. And that's right across the country.
And that does speak to the work that you've put into this and the professional that you are. You know, you're seeing it from where you are physically, but also from your experience as a journalist. I want to know on this second anniversary, what the feel is like, if there is something happening today to honor the victims in this horrible tragedy.
Yeah, I think today they're having a moment of silence. Remember, 13 people died today. 9 died. The anniversary will be tomorrow. The feeling in Nova Scotia is there's a lot of confusion and anger about what's going on. There's a public inquiry set up, but it's not acting like a public inquiry. It seems to be cherry picking information. The families have been expressed. The families' lawyers have expressed discontent with it. Some of the family members, some of the participants. It's just a real sort of confrontation building up, because it's quite clear that the federal and provincial governments and the RCMP are not willing to reveal everything that happened or put it into context. They're trying to confuse things. That's why I did the book, to put it out there and put pressure on them.
Paul Palango, appreciate you taking the time, and you can see 22 Murders. It is available now, as Paul mentioned, really taking a different perspective, and one that should be told from what you will see beyond those headlines. Thank you, Paul.
Oh, thank you. Anytime.
Appreciate the time.